The recording was still going when she said it. Soon, my love, just 2 more months and I leave this stupid American fool forever. He thinks I love him. Her laugh echoed through the laptop speakers as David Torres watched from the kitchen doorway. 10 years of marriage. 10 years of working double shifts at Patterson's Auto to pay for her English classes, her family's visits, her citizenship paperwork. 10 years of believing Anya Volkov loved him back. Dmitri, I dream about you every night, about our real life together when I come home to Prague. David's coffee mug hit the floor. The crash made Anya spin around, but the laptop screen had already gone dark. She smiled that same warm smile that had fooled him for a decade. David, honey, you startled me. I was just talking to my cousin about grandmother's birthday. He nodded slowly, stepping over the broken ceramic. Yeah, your cousin. That night, while Anya slept beside him, David stared at the ceiling and planned. Not revenge. Not yet. First, he needed proof. Then he needed leverage. Then he would erase her from his life so completely that she'd wish she'd never learned his name. The next morning started like any other. David left for the garage at 6:30, kissed Anya goodbye, told the 3 kids to behave for Mom. But instead of driving to Patterson's, he parked 2 blocks away and walked back through the woods behind their house. Through the kitchen window, he watched Anya grab her phone the moment his truck disappeared. She was already dialing before the front door closed. He's gone. We can talk freely now. David pulled out his own phone and opened the recording app. I know, but we have to be careful. If he finds out before I get my permanent card, I lose everything. The house, the kids' school, my status. A man's voice came through her speaker, heavily accented. You've been saying soon for 2 years, Anya. I'm tired of waiting. I want my woman back. Dmitri, please, just trust me. I've been married to this mechanic for 10 years. I deserve half of everything he owns when I leave. The house alone is worth $300,000. David's hand tightened around his phone. The house he'd bought by working 70-hour weeks. The house where his kids, their kids, had taken their first steps. What about the children? What about them? They're American citizens. They'll be fine with their father. I never wanted them anyway. You know this. The recording app showed 12 minutes and counting. David kept it running. My Aunt Milena says I should file for divorce now and take half immediately. But I want to wait until after my citizenship interview. That way, even if he tries to report me for fraud, it won't matter. I'll already have my papers. Smart woman. This is why I love you. I love you too. More than I've ever loved anyone. More than I could ever love that boring American with his dirty hands and his stupid dreams about fixing cars forever. David had heard enough. He walked back to his truck and drove to Patterson's Auto, but his mind wasn't on brake jobs or oil changes. It was on citizenship fraud, marriage fraud, perjury, immigration violations. His friend Tommy, who worked the afternoon shift, found him under the hood of a Chevy at lunchtime. You look like someone died, Dave. Everything okay at home? Define okay. David didn't look up from the engine. Tommy, you still talk to your brother-in-law, the one who works for ICE? Yeah, Agent Martinez. Why? Just curious about how marriage fraud investigations work, hypothetically. Tommy set down his wrench. Hypothetically or for real? David met his eyes. How long have we known each other? 15 years? Have I ever asked you for anything crazy? No. I'm not starting now. I just need information. That evening, Agent Martinez called David's cell phone. Tommy says you might have information about a fraudulent marriage. I can't give you details about our process, but I can tell you that we take these cases very seriously. If you have documentation, recorded conversations, financial records, proof of separate relationships, we can act quickly. How quickly? If the evidence is solid, emergency revocation of status can happen within weeks. Deportation within months. What about kids? American citizen children stay with the American parent. That's standard. David hung up and opened his laptop. He had work to do. Over the next 3 weeks, David became invisible in his own house. He installed tiny cameras in the living room and kitchen, devices no bigger than pen caps, ordered online and disguised as smoke detector batteries. He put a GPS tracker under Anya's car. He copied every file from her computer onto an external drive. The evidence was overwhelming. Hundreds of photos with Dmitri dating back 12 years, some taken during her supposed cousin visits to New York. Bank records showing money transfers to Prague. Love letters saved in a folder marked insurance documents. Even a partial marriage certificate from Czech Republic that was never finalized. dated 6 months before she married David. But the smoking gun came from her own mouth. "Mom's been asking when we're moving back," she told Dmitri during one of their daily calls. "I told her after the citizenship ceremony next month. Then I file for divorce, take half of everything, and come home to you." What if he fights the divorce? "He won't have grounds. I've been the perfect wife. Clean house, good mother, no affairs he can prove." American courts are stupid about these things. They always side with the woman, especially immigrant women. "You're brilliant, my love. I learned from the best. Aunt Milena taught me everything. She's done this 3 times herself." David paused the recording. Aunt Milena, the woman who'd introduced them at that cultural festival 10 years ago. The woman who'd insisted Anya needed a good American husband to help her build a better life. The woman who'd coached her through their entire relationship. He kept digging. Aunt Milena ran a consulting business called American Dream Services from her apartment in Queens. Her website promised to help Eastern European women find stability and love in America. The testimonials section showed dozens of photos, young women with older American men, all celebrating citizenship ceremonies and wedding anniversaries. David called the number listed. "American Dream Services, Milena speaking." "Hi, I'm calling about your matchmaking services." "Of course. Are you looking to meet a nice European girl? Someone traditional, family-oriented?" "That's exactly what I'm looking for." "Wonderful. I have several lovely ladies who would be perfect. They're all very motivated to build a life in America with the right man. Someone stable with good income, maybe a house already." "What's your success rate?" 100% marriages within 2 years. "And I provide ongoing support to make sure both parties get what they need from the relationship." David's jaw clenched. "What kind of support?" "Oh, just advice. How to be a good wife, how to handle the immigration process, how to navigate any difficulties that might arise." Difficulties? Well, sometimes American men have unrealistic expectations. They think marriage means their wife will love them forever, never want anything else. But smart women know that marriage can be a stepping stone to bigger opportunities. I help them understand their options. Their options for what? For independence, of course. Once they have their citizenship, they can make their own choices about their future. David hung up and immediately called Agent Martinez. "I need to meet with you. Tonight. I have everything you need." They met at a diner 40 miles from David's house. Martinez was a compact man in his 50s with sharp eyes and calloused hands. He looked through David's evidence for 20 minutes without speaking. "This is exceptional documentation," he finally said. "Audio recordings, financial transfers, GPS data showing deception about whereabouts. How long did you gather this?" 3 weeks. "And she has no idea?" "None." Martinez closed the folder. "Mr. Torres, I have to ask, are you prepared for what happens next? Your wife will be detained. Your children will go through trauma. Your life will become very public and very complicated." David thought about Anya's laugh when she called him a stupid American fool, about Dmitri planning their reunion, about Aunt Milena's marriage farm. "I'm prepared. Then we move tomorrow." David went home and acted normal. He helped 12-year-old Sophia with her math homework. He read a bedtime story to 8-year-old Carmen. He tucked 6-year-old Miguel into bed and listened to him talk about his soccer game. "Dad, are you and Mom okay?" Sophia asked as he turned off her light. "You've been quiet lately." "Everything's going to be okay, mija. I promise." It wasn't a lie. Everything would be okay. For them. The next morning, David left for work at his usual time. At exactly 9 o'clock, while Anya was dropping Miguel at kindergarten, Agent Martinez and 2 ICE officers knocked on their door. Anya wasn't home, but they didn't need her to be. They had a warrant to search the house and seize evidence of immigration fraud. David's phone rang at 9:15. "David," Anya's voice was shaking. "There are government agents at our house. They have some kind of warrant. What's happening? I don't know. Are you okay? Are the kids okay? We're at Sophia's school. I came to pick her up early. David, I'm scared. They're saying something about marriage fraud. That's impossible, right? We've been married 10 years. Stay calm. I'm coming home." But David didn't go home. He went to his lawyer's office, where emergency custody papers were already prepared. While ICE searched his house, David was in family court, filing for sole custody based on evidence of his wife's fraudulent marriage and abandonment plans. By noon, it was over. Anya came home to find David sitting at their kitchen table with a legal document in his hands. "David, what is this?" "The agents took my computer, my phone, my passport. They said I have to report to their office tomorrow morning." "What did you tell them?" David slid the custody papers across the table. "I told them the truth." Anya's face went white as she read. "You're taking my children? David, you can't do this." "I'm their mother." "Are you?" David pulled out his phone and played the recording from 3 days earlier. "I never wanted them anyway. You know this." Anya stumbled backward. "That's not... You don't understand. I was upset. I didn't mean..." "Which part didn't you mean? The part where you called me a stupid American fool? The part where you're planning to divorce me next month? Or the part where you've been lying to me for 10 years? How long have you known?" "Long enough." David stood up. "The kids are staying with my sister tonight. Tomorrow, you report to ICE. Next week, you're probably on a plane back to Prague. Dimitri can pick you up at the airport." "David, please. I know I made mistakes, but I do love you, and I love our children. Don't do this." "Our children?" David played another recording. "They're American citizens. They'll be fine with their father. I never wanted them anyway." Tears ran down Anya's face, but David felt nothing. "I worked 70 hours a week to pay for your English classes. I took out a second mortgage to bring your mother here for Christmas. I spent my savings on your citizenship application fees. For 10 years, I believed you loved me. I did love you. Maybe not the way you wanted, but I cared about you. You cared about my green card. You cared about my house. You cared about my paycheck." David picked up another folder from the table. ICE has bank records showing money transfers to Czech Republic. They have photos of you with Dimitri dating back 12 years. They have documentation of Aunt Milena's marriage fraud business. Marriage fraud business? American Dream Services. 100% success rate, remember? How many other stupid American men has she set up? Anya's phone buzzed. Then again. Then it started ringing continuously. "That's probably Dimitri wondering why you missed your daily call," David said. "Or maybe it's Aunt Milena warning you that ICE raided her apartment this morning." Anya grabbed her phone with shaking hands. 17 missed calls from various European numbers. "David, I'll do anything. I'll stop talking to Dimitri. I'll cut off my family. I'll be the wife you want me to be." "I don't want you to be anything." David walked toward the door. "I want you gone." "Where are you going?" "To pick up my kids from school. They're going to need dinner and help with homework, and someone to tell them their mother had to go away for a while." "What will you tell them?" David paused at the doorway. "The truth. That sometimes people lie to get what they want, but that doesn't mean they win." The next morning, Anya reported to the ICE office as ordered. She never came home. 3 days later, David's doorbell rang at 6 in the morning. He opened it to find a man in his 30s with sharp cheekbones and intense eyes. "You are David Torres?" "Depends who's asking." "I am Dmitri Novak. I think you know who I am." David stepped onto his front porch and closed the door behind him. His children were still sleeping. "I know exactly who you are." "Good. Then you know why I'm here." "Let me guess. You flew 6,000 miles to ask me to give you my wife back." Dimitri's jaw tightened. "She is not your wife. She never was your wife. She belongs with me. She belongs in immigration detention in New Jersey. That's where she is right now, waiting for her deportation hearing." "Because of you. Because of her choices." David crossed his arms. "She chose to lie. She chose to commit fraud. She chose to plan abandoning her children. I just documented it. Those are not her children. They are yours. She told you a lot of things. She told me a lot of things, too. The difference is, I have everything she told you on tape." Dimitri stepped closer. "You have destroyed everything. 10 years we waited. 10 years she sacrificed for your stupid American dream." "My dream?" David laughed. "My dream was having a wife who loved me. My dream was raising kids in a happy home. My dream was working hard and building something real with someone who wanted to build it with me. She did want that, at first. No, she wanted citizenship." "There's a difference." Dimitri's hands clenched into fists. "You cannot keep her from me. I'm not keeping her from anyone. ICE is keeping her in detention. The federal judge will decide if she gets deported. Her own recorded words will determine if she ever sets foot in this country again. I will get her back. Good luck with that." David turned to go back inside, but Dimitri grabbed his shoulder. We are not finished talking. David spun around, and for the first time in the conversation, his voice turned cold. Yes, we are. You're on my property, threatening me outside my children's bedroom windows. You have exactly 10 seconds to get back in whatever car brought you here and drive away. Or what? David pulled out his phone and showed Dmitri the screen. He was already recording. Or I call 911 and tell them a foreign national is trespassing and making threats. Then ICE gets your name and passport information. Then they start asking how you knew to find me and why you're in contact with someone under federal investigation for marriage fraud. Dmitri stared at the phone, then at David's face. This is not over. For you and Anya, yeah, it is. David watched Dmitri walk to a rental car and drive away. Then he went inside and made breakfast for his kids. 2 weeks later, David sat in federal court and listened to a judge review the evidence against his wife. No, Mrs. Torres, excuse me, Miss Volkov. The government has presented compelling evidence that your marriage to Mr. Torres was fraudulent from the beginning. Recorded conversations indicate premeditation, ongoing deception, and plans to abandon the marriage immediately after obtaining citizenship. Anya, wearing an orange detention center jumpsuit, looked nothing like the confident woman who had laughed about fooling her stupid American husband. Your Honor, I made mistakes, but I do love my family. I want to stay and be a good mother to my children. The prosecutor played a 30-second audio clip. I never wanted them anyway. You know this. Your Honor, Anya's public defender said, my client was speaking emotionally during a private conversation. Her actions as a mother speak louder than words spoken in anger. The prosecutor played another clip. After the citizenship ceremony next month, I file for divorce, take half of everything, and come home to you. The judge removed his glasses and looked directly at Anya. Miss Volkov, I've been hearing immigration cases for 23 years. I've seen people make genuine mistakes, have changes of heart, struggle with complex emotions about their marriages and their futures. What I see here is not complexity. It's calculation. He put his glasses back on and read from his notes. You maintained a romantic relationship with Mr. Novak throughout your marriage. You transferred money to Czech Republic while claiming financial hardship to delay immigration fees. You lied on federal forms, committed perjury during interviews, and made detailed plans to defraud both the immigration system and your husband's assets. The judge closed the folder. I hereby order your immediate deportation to Czech Republic. You are permanently barred from entering the United States. This court is adjourned. David watched 2 federal marshals escort Anya out of the courtroom. She looked back at him once, but he was already gathering his papers. 3 months later, David was fixing a transmission when his phone rang. Mr. Torres, this is Agent Martinez. I wanted to update you on the Aunt Milena case. David wiped his hands on a shop rag. What about it? We shut down American Dream Services. Turns out your wife's case was the key to unraveling a network that's been operating for 15 years. We've identified at least 47 fraudulent marriages, traced money back to organized crime in Eastern Europe. Organized crime? Marriage fraud was just one income stream. These women were also involved in identity theft, credit card fraud, money laundering. Your documentation didn't just deport your wife, it exposed a major criminal enterprise. David sat down heavily on a work stool. I just wanted to stop her from stealing my kids. You did a lot more than that. The Department of Justice wants to give you a civilian commendation. I don't want an award. I want my kids to be okay. How are they handling everything? David looked out the garage window toward the elementary school where Miguel was finishing first grade. Better than I expected. Kids are resilient. Sophia asks questions sometimes, but they're adjusting. And you? David thought about that. 3 months ago, he'd been married to a woman who called him a fool behind his back. Today, he was a single father with full custody, no debt, and a house that finally felt like home. I'm good. After he hung up, David's friend Tommy walked over with a cup of coffee. You hear they arrested 3 more women from that marriage scam? Martinez told me. You realize you probably saved dozens of guys from getting played the same way? David shrugged. I just wanted to protect my kids. Yeah, well, you did that too. Tommy sat on a nearby stool. Sophia's soccer team made the playoffs, right? Championship game Saturday? She asked if her mom's coming? Not anymore. That evening, David picked up his 3 kids from his sister's house, where they went after school every day. Sophia ran to his truck with a math test marked 98%. Look, Dad, Mrs. Peterson says I'm the best in the class. That's my girl. In the back seat, Carmen held up a drawing of their family, 4 stick figures standing in front of a house with a big garage. It's us, she explained. You, me, Sophia, and Miguel. At our house. David looked at the drawing in his rearview mirror. 4 people, not 5. It's perfect, mija. At dinner, Miguel asked the question David had been expecting for months. Dad, is Mom ever coming back? David set down his fork and looked at his youngest son. No, buddy, Mom can't come back. Because she lied? Because she made choices that hurt our family. Do you miss her? David considered the question honestly. Did he miss the woman he thought he'd married? The one who'd kissed him goodbye every morning and told him she loved him? The one who'd helped him paint Sophia's bedroom and taught Carmen how to braid her hair? That woman had never existed. I miss the mom I thought you had, he said finally. But I'm happy with the family we have now. Sophia, who'd been quiet through dinner, looked up from her plate. Dad, are you going to get married again? Someday, maybe. If I meet someone who loves all of us for real? How will you know if it's real? David smiled. Because real love doesn't come with conditions. It doesn't have a secret plan. It doesn't end when things get hard. 2 years later, David stood in the garage of his expanded auto shop, Torres Family Auto, and watched his kids play in the customer waiting area he'd built just for them. Sophia was 14 now, on the honor roll and the varsity soccer team. Carmen was 10, obsessed with art and horses. Miguel was 8, already asking when he could learn to fix cars like Dad. The door chime rang, and David looked up to see a woman about his age with kind eyes and work clothes. Are you David Torres? I'm Lisa Martinez. My car's been making a weird noise. What kind of noise? Like a dying cat mixed with a garbage disposal? David laughed. That's the most accurate diagnosis I've heard all week. Let's take a look. As he popped the hood of her Honda, Lisa watched Sophia help Miguel with his homework at one of the waiting room tables. Your kids? Yep, 3 of them. They're beautiful. Where's their mom? It was a natural question, one David had answered dozens of times over the past 2 years. Not in the picture. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're exactly where we're supposed to be. David replaced Lisa's alternator that afternoon, and she asked if he recommended any good restaurants for dinner. Actually, he said, I'm making spaghetti tonight. The kids always make too much. You're welcome to join us if you want to meet the loudest, messiest, most amazing family in town. Lisa smiled. I'd like that. 6 months later, Lisa moved into the house on Maple Street. A year after that, she legally adopted all 3 kids. 2 years after that, David and Lisa had a daughter of their own. On his wedding day, David's best man, Tommy, asked him if he ever thought about Anya. Sometimes, David admitted, but not the way you'd think. What way? I think about how she taught me what real love isn't, and how that helped me recognize what real love is. David looked across the backyard at Lisa, who was laughing with Sophia and Carmen as they tried to untangle Christmas lights in July. She thought she was using me, he said. Turns out she was setting me free. The reception lasted until midnight. After the last guest left and the kids were finally asleep, David and Lisa sat on their front porch swing and watched the stars. Any regrets? Lisa asked. David thought about the question seriously. Did he regret 10 years of marriage to a woman who'd never loved him? Did he regret the pain his children had gone through? Did he regret the months of investigation and legal battles? Just one, he said. What's that? I regret not figuring it out sooner. Lisa took his hand. If you figured it out sooner, you might not have met me. True. And your kids might not be as strong as they are now. Also true. And dozens of other men might still be getting scammed by that marriage fraud ring. David squeezed her hand. You're pretty smart for a mechanic. I learned from the best. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the night sounds of their neighborhood. Safe sounds. Home sounds. David. Yeah? Promise me something. Anything. If I ever start acting like I'm using you for citizenship or money or anything else, you'll call me on it immediately. David laughed. Lisa, you were born in Ohio. You make more money than I do. And you've seen me at my worst, covered in motor oil, dealing with cranky customers, struggling to help Sophia with algebra. So if you're using me, you're really bad at it. Good point. 5 years after that night, David got a call from Agent Martinez. Mr. Torres, I thought you'd want to know. Anya Volkov was arrested in Prague yesterday. David paused his work on a brake job. Arrested for what? Identity theft and wire fraud. Apparently, she tried to run the same marriage scam in Germany. Used forged documents, including a fake passing certificate claiming you had died. She told someone I was dead? Complete with a fake obituary and everything. The German police caught her when she tried to marry a businessman from Munich. David shook his head. How did they connect it back to the US case? She used the same fake identity documents Aunt Milena's network had created. We've been tracking those papers for years. What happens now? She'll serve time in Germany, then probably get extradited to Czech Republic to face charges there. The point is, she's never getting near another sufferer. After David hung up, he walked to the office area of his shop where Lisa was doing the books, and their daughter Emma was coloring at a small desk. Who was that? Lisa asked. Agent Martinez. Anya got arrested in Germany for trying to run another marriage scam. Lisa looked up from her computer. Are you okay? David sat down next to Emma and watched her carefully color inside the lines of a picture of a house with a big garage. Yeah, he said. I'm perfect. That night at dinner, Sophia, now 19 and home from college for the weekend, asked about the phone call. Dad, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't found out about Mom's plan? David looked around the table at his family. Lisa was helping 8-year-old Emma cut her chicken. Miguel, now 13, was telling Carmen about his robotics club project. Sophia was home with straight A's and a partial scholarship to study engineering. Every day, he said, and every day I'm grateful I did. Do you think she's happy? Carmen asked. It was a complicated question from a 15-year-old who barely remembered the woman who'd given birth to her. I think she got exactly what she deserved, David said finally, and we got exactly what we deserved too. What did we deserve? Emma asked. David looked at his youngest daughter, Lisa's biological child, but as much his as any of them, each other. Later that evening, after the kids were in bed, David and Lisa sat in their living room and watched the news. A story came on about immigration fraud, featuring clips from a documentary about marriage scams. Do you ever think about doing interviews? Lisa asked. Your story could help other people recognize the warning signs. David shook his head. This is a normal Tuesday night in our house. Emma's got a spelling test tomorrow. Miguel needs help with his science project. Sophia's deciding between 3 different colleges. That's the story I want to tell. What story is that? That liars don't win. That good people who work hard and love their families get to keep their families. That sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that ever happened to you. Lisa curled up next to him on the couch. You know what I love most about you? My incredible good looks and charm. Your optimism. After everything you went through, you still believe in love. You still believe in marriage. You still believe people are basically good. Most people are basically good. I just married someone who wasn't. And now? David looked at the framed family photos covering their mantle. 5 kids ranging in age from 8 to 19. 2 adults who'd both been hurt before and found healing together. A house full of laughter and homework arguments and soccer practices and dance recitals. Now I married someone who is. The next morning, David was at the shop early when his phone rang. Unknown international number. Hello? David Torres? The accent was unmistakable. Eastern European, but not Czech. Who is this? My name is Petra Kozlov. I am journalist from Prague. I write story about American marriage fraud. I want to interview you about Anya Volkov. I'm not interested. Please, Mr. Torres, this is important story. Many women from my country hurt American men this way. Your case help other people. David thought about Agent Martinez's call. Dozens of sufferers. A criminal network that had operated for 15 years. What exactly do you want to know? How you discover truth, how you gather evidence, how you protect your children. You are a hero to many people here. I'm not a hero. I'm just a dad who protected his kids. Yes, this is what make you hero. David looked through his office window at the framed photo on his desk. All 5 kids at Emma's 8th birthday party, covered in cake frosting and laughing. I'll give you 20 minutes, he said finally. But I have conditions. What conditions? No questions about my current family, no questions about my feelings or emotions, just facts about the case. Agreed. The interview lasted exactly 20 minutes. Petra asked smart questions about documentation, legal processes, and warning signs. She didn't ask about revenge or anger or heartbreak. Last question, she said. What you tell other American men who think their wife may be lying? David considered the question carefully. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, investigate. Don't make accusations without proof, but don't ignore evidence either. And remember, a real marriage can survive honest questions. A fake marriage can't. Very wise. One more thing. Yes? If you're going to write about this, make sure people understand something. I didn't do this to hurt Anya. I did it to protect my children. That's all that mattered to me. Of course. After David hung up, he realized something had changed. For 5 years, he'd thought of himself as Anya's sufferer. Today, for the first time, he thought of himself as his children's protector. There was a difference. That afternoon, Sophia called from college. Dad, I saw an article online about Mom getting arrested in Germany. Are you okay? I'm fine, sweetheart. How are you? Honestly, I'm proud of you. For what? For saving us, for giving us a real family, for showing us what a good marriage looks like. David felt his throat tighten. You don't remember much about before. I remember enough. I remember you working all the time to pay for things. I remember Mom always being on the phone. I remember feeling like something was wrong, but not understanding what. And now? Now I know what a happy family feels like. When I get married someday, I want what you and Lisa have. What do we have? Real love. The kind that gets stronger when things get hard, instead of looking for a way out. That evening, David told Lisa about both phone calls. How do you feel about your story being in the news? Honestly, good. If it helps one person avoid what I went through, it's worth it. And how do you feel about Sophia's call? David smiled. Like maybe I did something right. Maybe? Okay, definitely. 2 weeks later, Petra's article was published in a Prague newspaper and picked up by American media outlets. The headline read, American father exposes marriage fraud network, saves dozens from similar fate. David received calls from 3 different documentary filmmakers, 2 book publishers, and a television producer. He turned them all down, but he did frame the article and hang it in his office, right next to the photo of his kids at Emma's birthday party. Not because he was proud of exposing Anya, but because he was proud of protecting his family. 6 months later, David was closing the shop when a young man in his 20s approached the counter. Are you David Torres? Depends who's asking. My name is Chris Weber. I think my wife might be running the same scam yours did. David looked at the kid, because that's what he was, maybe 25 with kind eyes and soft hands. What makes you think that? She's always on the phone speaking Russian. She gets mail from overseas that she hides. She asks weird questions about my job and my bank account, and yesterday I found photos on her computer of her with another man. How long have you been married? 8 months. Kids? Not yet. She keeps saying we should wait until after her citizenship interview. David studied the young man's face, the same confusion he'd felt, the same desperate hope that he was wrong. You have family you can stay with? My parents live about an hour away. Why? Because if I'm right about what's happening, your life is about to get very complicated very quickly. David spent the next 2 hours walking Chris through the same process he'd followed 5 years earlier. Documentation, evidence, legal protections. What if I'm wrong? Chris asked. Then you'll have some uncomfortable conversations with your wife, but your marriage will survive them. If you're right, you'll save yourself years of pain and financial ruin. David handed Chris a business card with Agent Martinez's direct number written on the back. Either way, you'll know the truth. That's worth something. 3 weeks later, Chris called David at home. You were right about everything. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. She was planning to clean out my bank account and disappear next month. She already had a plane ticket back to Moscow. What happened? ICE arrested her yesterday. Turns out she's done this before, in Canada. I wasn't even her first sufferer. David closed his eyes. Are you okay? I will be. Thanks to you. After David hung up, Lisa found him sitting on their back porch, staring at the stars. Everything all right? Just thinking about how many Chris Webbers are out there. Young guys who think they found love but really found a hunter. Lisa sat beside him. You can't save them all. I know, but maybe I can save some of them. What are you thinking? David turned to look at his wife, his real wife, who'd been beside him through 5 years of building a blended family, growing a business, and healing from betrayal. I'm thinking maybe it's time to do some of those interviews. 6 months later, David appeared on a national morning show to discuss marriage fraud warning signs. The segment generated hundreds of calls to the ICE fraud hotline. But the moment that mattered most to David came at the end of the interview when the host asked about his current life. Mr. Torres, you've been through something that would make many people lose faith in marriage entirely. Yet you remarried and have a blended family of 5 children. How did you learn to trust again? David looked directly into the camera and thought about Lisa, probably watching from their kitchen while she made breakfast for the kids. I learned that love isn't something that happens to you. It's something you choose to do every single day. My ex-wife chose deception. My current wife chooses truth. I chose to keep believing that real love exists because giving up on love would have meant letting my ex-wife win. And she didn't win? David smiled. She's serving a prison sentence in Germany. I'm married to an amazing woman and raising 5 incredible kids. You tell me who won. That evening, David came home to find his entire family waiting in the living room with a homemade banner that read, "We love our hero, Dad." This is embarrassing, he said, but he was grinning. Deal with it, Sophia said, hugging him. You're famous now. I don't want to be famous. I want to be your dad. You can be both, Emma said solemnly. Like Superman. Superman? He saves people, but he also has a family that loves him. David looked around at his 5 kids, biological and adopted, biological and chosen, all equally his. You know what? You're absolutely right. 2 years later, David published a book called Ghost Husband: How I Exposed a Marriage Fraud Network and Found Real Love. All proceeds went to a foundation that helped men recover from marriage fraud. The book became a bestseller, but David's favorite review came from Sophia, who was now a senior in college studying criminal justice. Dad wrote a book about the worst thing that ever happened to our family, she wrote on social media. But somehow reading it, all I can think about is how lucky we are. Because that worst thing led us to the best thing, our real family. On the 5-year anniversary of Anya's deportation, David received an unexpected letter. The return address was a women's prison in Prague. He almost threw it away without reading it. Instead, he opened it at his kitchen table while Lisa made dinner and the kids did homework. David, it began, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I have no right to contact you, but I need you to know that I understand now what I did to you and our children. David read the rest of the letter carefully. Anya described her arrest in Germany, her trial, her prison sentence. She wrote about therapy sessions where she'd been forced to confront the damage she'd caused. I tell myself that I loved you in my own way, the letter continued. But I know that's not true. I used you. I lied to you. I planned to abandon our children. There is no excuse for any of it. The letter was 3 pages long. At the end, she wrote, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that seeing you fight for our children, seeing you build a real family with Lisa, seeing the man you became after I left, it showed me what real love looks like. I never gave you that, but I'm glad you found it. David read the letter twice, then handed it to Lisa. What do you think? Lisa read it carefully. I think she's probably sincere. Prison and therapy can change people. Should I write back? Do you want to? David thought about it. For 7 years, he'd carried anger toward Anya, not hatred. He'd moved past that. But a lingering resentment about the lies, the manipulation, the years of his life she'd stolen. Reading her letter, he realized the anger was gone. No, he said finally. I don't need to write back. This chapter is closed. Lisa nodded and handed him back the letter. What will you do with it? David walked to their fireplace and tossed the letter into the flames. As it burned, he felt something he hadn't expected. Relief. Not because Anya had apologized, but because he'd realized he no longer needed her apology. That night, after the kids were asleep, David and Lisa sat on their front porch swing. The same swing where they'd talked about regrets on their wedding night 8 years earlier. Any regrets now? Lisa asked. David looked at their house, glowing with warm light from inside. Through the windows, he could see the evidence of their life together. Sophia's college acceptance letters on the refrigerator. Miguel's robotics trophies on the mantel. Carmen's artwork covering the walls. Emma's toys scattered across the living room. Floor, just one, he said. Same as before? No, different regret. What's that? I regret that it took me so long to realize how lucky I am. Lisa took his hand. Better late than never. Much better. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of their neighborhood settling into sleep. Safe sounds, home sounds, real sounds. David? Yeah? I love you. I love you too. It was the same exchange they'd had thousands of times over the past 8 years. But tonight, like every night, David marveled at how different those words sounded when they were true. The next morning, David was at the shop early when Agent Martinez called with his final update. Mr. Torres, I wanted to let you know that the Department of Justice officially closed the American Dream Services case yesterday. How many sufferers total? 63 confirmed marriage fraud cases, but the investigation led to broader discoveries: identity theft, money laundering, human trafficking. We estimate the network affected over 300 people. 300? Your case was the domino that brought down the entire operation. The Justice Department wants to present you with their highest civilian honor for assisting in a federal investigation. David thought about the young men like Chris Weber who'd been saved from similar betrayals, about the women who might have been trafficked if the network had continued operating, about his own children who'd grown up safe and loved because he'd found the courage to investigate the truth. I'll accept the award, he said, but I want my kids there when they present it. Of course. And Agent Martinez, yes? Thank you for believing me, for acting quickly, for making sure my children were protected. Thank you for having the courage to come forward. Not everyone would have. After David hung up, he walked to his office window and looked out at the street where his children would walk home from school in a few hours. Sophia was graduating college in 2 months, with a job already lined up with the FBI. Miguel had been accepted to a summer engineering program. Carmen was student body president and captain of the debate team. Emma was 8 years old and believed her dad could fix anything. They were right. He hadn't just fixed cars. He'd fixed their lives. That evening at dinner, David told his family about the award. Does this mean you're officially a hero now? Emma asked. It means your dad helped catch some very bad people who were hurting families, Lisa explained. Like the people who hurt our family before Lisa came? Carmen asked. Exactly like that. Miguel, now 15 and almost as tall as his father, looked thoughtful. Dad, do you think about Mom, about Anya, anymore? It was the first time in years that any of the kids had asked about their biological mother directly. Sometimes, David said honestly, but not the way I used to. What way do you think about her now? David looked around the table at his 5 children, all of them listening intently, all of them old enough now to understand the complexities of their family's origin story. I think about her like a chapter in a book, he said finally, an important chapter that had to happen for the rest of the story to make sense. But it's not the chapter I'm living in anymore. What chapter are we living in now? Emma asked. David looked at Lisa, who was smiling at him across the table. The happily ever after chapter. But the book's not over yet, Sophia pointed out. No, David agreed. It's not over yet, but I know how it ends. How? With all of us together, exactly where we belong. 3 months later, David stood in a federal courthouse in Washington, D.C., while the Attorney General presented him with the Justice Department's highest civilian honor. His entire family sat in the front row, wearing their best clothes and proud smiles. The citation read, "For extraordinary courage in exposing a criminal network, protecting vulnerable families, and assisting federal law enforcement in dismantling an organization responsible for hundreds of crimes against American citizens." But the words that mattered most to David came afterward, when 8-year-old Emma ran up to the podium and hugged his legs. I'm proud of you, Daddy. I'm proud of you too, baby girl. For what? I didn't catch any bad guys. You did something much more important. What? You helped me remember what I was fighting for. That night, in their hotel room in Washington, David and Lisa lay in bed and talked about the day. How does it feel to be officially recognized as a hero? Lisa asked. Weird. I still don't think of myself that way. How do you think of yourself? David considered the question. For years after Anya left, he thought of himself as a sufferer, then as a survivor, then as a father doing his best. I think of myself as the luckiest man alive, he said finally. Because you caught the bad guys? Because I got to keep my kids? Because I found you? Because something that could have destroyed our family made it stronger instead? Lisa turned to face him in the dark. You know what I love most about your story? What? It's not really about marriage fraud or immigration scams or federal investigations. What's it about? It's about a dad who loved his children so much that he was willing to fight the entire system to protect them. And it's about how love, real love, always wins in the end. David thought about that as he fell asleep. About Anya serving out her sentence in a Prague prison cell. About Dmitri, who'd never gotten his reunion. About Aunt Milena, and her network of hunters, all of them facing justice for their crimes, and about his family sleeping safely in the hotel rooms next door, dreaming their own dreams in the country they called home. Love had won, not just survived, won. The next morning, as they flew back home, Sophia asked her father a question that surprised him. "Dad, do you think Anya ever really understood what she gave up?" David looked out the airplane window at the landscape passing below, the country he'd been born in, worked in, raised his children in, and would grow old in. "I think she understood exactly what she was giving up," he said. "She just thought what she was getting instead was worth more." Was it? For her, maybe. She valued money and status and being with Dmitri more than she valued being our family. Do you think she regrets it now? David thought about the letter he'd burned, about the apology he'd never answered. Probably. But regret doesn't change anything. Choices do. What choice? The choice to love people for real. The choice to keep promises. The choice to build something that lasts. Sophia nodded thoughtfully. Is that why you married Lisa? I married Lisa because she makes me laugh, because she loves all of you like you're her own, and because every single day with her is better than the day before. That's a good reason. It's the only reason. When they landed, David's phone had dozens of messages from reporters wanting interviews about the award ceremony. He deleted them all without reading them. His story was over. His life was just beginning. 5 years later, David stood in the backyard of their house on Maple Street, watching his oldest daughter Sophia get married to a young FBI agent who looked at her the way David looked at Lisa, like she was the most amazing thing in the world. As Sophia danced with her new husband, she caught her father's eye and mouthed the words, "Thank you." David nodded back, understanding exactly what she meant. Thank you for protecting us. Thank you for showing us what real love looks like. Thank you for fighting for our family. Thank you for never giving up. Later that evening, after the last guests had gone home and the younger kids were finally asleep, David and Lisa sat on their front porch swing and watched the stars. 20 years from now, Lisa said. When Emma's getting married and Miguel's bringing his kids over for Sunday dinner, what do you think you'll remember most about tonight? David thought about the question seriously. The wedding had been perfect. Sophia radiant in her grandmother's dress, the ceremony in their backyard under twinkling lights, all 5 kids together, celebrating the next chapter of their family's story. I'll remember the moment during the father-daughter dance when Sophia whispered in my ear. What did she whisper? She said, "Thank you for teaching me that good men exist." Lisa's eyes filled with tears. That's beautiful. She said she never would have known what to look for in a husband if she hadn't watched me and you together. You taught her well. We taught her well. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the familiar sounds of their neighborhood at night. In 20 years of living in this house, those sounds had become the soundtrack of their happiness. David? Yeah. Are you happy? It was a simple question, but David took his time answering it. He thought about the young man he'd been 20 years ago, working double shifts and believing his wife loved him, about the devastating moment when he'd learned the truth, about the months of investigation and legal battles that had followed, about the day he'd met Lisa and the way she'd looked at his children like they were treasures instead of complications, about watching Sophia graduate from the FBI Academy, about Miguel's acceptance to MIT, about Carmen's full scholarship to art school, about Emma, now 13, and already talking about becoming a lawyer like her dad had become a hero. Yeah, he said finally. I'm happy. Even after everything you went through? Especially after everything I went through. Why especially? David turned to look at his wife, the woman who'd chosen to love not just him, but his children, his complicated history, his determination to protect his family above all else. Because I know the difference now. Between love that's real and love that's fake. Between a partner and a hunter. Between a marriage that's built to last and a marriage that's built to end. And this marriage? This marriage is built to last forever. Lisa took his hand, and David marveled, as he did every day, at how different it felt to be touched by someone who loved him for real. Forever is a long time, she said. Not long enough. The next morning, David woke up to find a text message from Agent Martinez, who had retired but still kept in touch. Saw Sophia's wedding photos on social media. Beautiful family, David. You did good. David showed the message to Lisa over coffee. He's right, you know, she said. You did good. We did good. No, this started with you. You made the choice to fight for your children instead of giving up. Everything else followed from that. David thought about that as he got ready for work, about the choice he'd made 15 years ago to investigate instead of ignore, to document instead of deny, to protect instead of pretend. It had been the hardest choice of his life. It had also been the best choice of his life. At the shop that morning, David found a young woman waiting by the front door. She was maybe 25, with nervous eyes and a bruised wrist that she tried to hide under her sleeves. "Are you David Torres?" "Depends who's asking." "My name is Jessica. I read your book. I think my husband might be running a different kind of scam." David looked at her bruised wrist, at the fear in her eyes, at the way she kept glancing over her shoulder as if someone might be following her. "What kind of scam?" "He married me for my inheritance. My parents died in a car accident 2 years ago, and I got their life insurance money. Now he's trying to get me declared mentally incompetent so he can control everything." David felt the familiar surge of protective anger he'd learned to channel constructively. "Do you have somewhere safe to stay?" "My sister's house, but he knows where she lives." "Do you have evidence?" "Recordings, bank records, emails to his real girlfriend about spending the crazy widow's money." David looked at this young woman, another sufferer of someone who'd seen marriage as a weapon instead of a promise, and made a decision. "Jessica, I'm going to help you. But first, we're going to call the police. Then we're going to call a lawyer. Then we're going to make sure you're safe." "You'll really help me?" "I'll help you get your life back." 2 hours later, Jessica was in protective custody, and her husband was under arrest for elder misuse fraud and attempted financial exploitation. That evening, David told his family about Jessica's case over dinner. "So you're still catching bad guys?" Emma asked. "I'm still helping people protect their families." "Is that what you do now? Like officially?" David looked around the table at his 5 children, all of them grown or growing, all of them safe, all of them loved. "I guess it is." 6 months later, David opened Torres Family Protection Services in the office space next to his auto shop. The business helped sufferers of marriage fraud, financial elder misuse, and domestic deception gather evidence and navigate the legal system. Lisa managed the financial side. Sophia, now working for the FBI, consulted on federal cases. Miguel, studying computer engineering, helped with digital forensics. The first year, they helped 43 families. The second year, it was over 100. But the case that mattered most to David came in year 3, when Agent Martinez called with an unusual request. "David, I have a situation I think you should know about. We arrested a man last week for running a marriage fraud network out of Los Angeles. During the investigation, we found something interesting." "What?" "He had a file on you. Photos, addresses, family information. We think he was planning to target you for revenge." David felt his blood run cold. "Revenge for what?" "For destroying the American Dream Services network. Apparently you cost him a lot of money." "Is my family safe?" "He's in custody and not getting out." "But David, there might be others. The criminal networks you helped expose, they have long memories." That night, David told Lisa about the call. "Are you worried?" she asked. "About us?" "No. We have security systems, and the FBI monitors anyone who makes threats. But I'm worried about other people." "What do you mean?" "Other sufferers who come forward, other families who fight back. If these networks are targeting people for revenge, we need to be ready to protect them." Lisa nodded. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking it's time to expand the business." 6 months later, Torres Family Protection Services launched a residential security program for families dealing with criminal retaliation. They partnered with local law enforcement, federal agencies, and private security firms to create safe houses and protection protocols. The program saved lives. David knew this because he received letters from families who'd been targeted for helping law enforcement, just like his had been. But the moment that made everything worth it came on a Tuesday morning when Jessica, the young woman with the bruised wrist, walked into his office wearing a business suit and a confident smile. "Mr. Torres, I wanted to thank you again for helping me." "How are you doing, Jessica?" "I'm great. I testified at my ex-husband's trial last month. He got 15 years. "Good. What are you doing now?" "I'm starting law school in the fall. Family protection law, specifically. I want to help people the way you helped me." David smiled. "That's the best thank you I could ask for." "Actually, there's something else." "What's that?" "I'm getting married. To someone who loves me for real this time." "How do you know?" Because he told me about you, about how you taught him to recognize real love by showing him what it looks like. David was confused. He knows me? He should. He's your son. David stared at Jessica in shock. Miguel? He talks about you all the time, about how you protected your family, how you built something real with Lisa, how you never gave up on love even after everything you went through. You're marrying Miguel? If that's okay with you. He wanted to ask your permission, but I thought I should introduce myself first. David started laughing. Are you kidding? You're already part of the family. You have been since the day you asked for help. That evening, Miguel officially asked for Jessica's hand in marriage. Dad, I know this might seem weird, since you're the one who helped her escape from her first marriage. Miguel, stop. David put his hand on his son's shoulder. There's nothing weird about falling in love with someone who has the courage to fight for herself. That's exactly the kind of person I'd want you to marry. Really? Really. But I have one condition. What's that? You tell her every day that you love her. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Because real love isn't something you save for special occasions. Miguel smiled. I learned that from watching you and Lisa. Then you learned the most important lesson I can teach you. 2 years later, David walked Jessica down the aisle at her wedding to Miguel. It was the second time he'd given away a daughter, and it felt just as meaningful as the first. During the father-daughter dance, Jessica had asked him to fill that role since her own father was gone. She whispered the same words Sophia had whispered years earlier. Thank you for teaching me that good men exist. But then she added something new, and thank you for raising one of them. After the wedding, David and Lisa sat on their front porch swing and watched their family celebrate in the backyard. 4 of their children were now married or engaged. Emma, at 18, was heading to college in the fall to study criminal justice. We did good, Lisa said. We did great. Any regrets? David looked at the scene in front of him. Sophia and her FBI agent husband teaching their toddler to dance. Miguel and Jessica planning their honeymoon. Carmen and her fiancé discussing their upcoming art gallery opening. Emma giving a toast about family and love and never giving up. Just one, he said. Still the same regret? No, new regret. What now? I regret that Anya will never see what she missed. She'll never see Sophia's children grow up. She'll never see Miguel graduate from MIT. She'll never see the family we built from the ashes of the family she tried to destroy. Do you really regret that? David thought about the question honestly. Did he want Anya to see their happiness? Did he want her to understand what real love looked like? No, he said finally. I don't regret that. Her loss is our gain. Exactly. But I do regret something else. What? I regret that it took me so long to realize that the best revenge isn't making someone pay for hurting you. It's building something so beautiful that their destruction becomes irrelevant. Lisa took his hand. That's very wise. I learned it from you. No, you learned it from yourself. I just helped you remember who you really are. Who am I really? A man who loves his family more than he hates his enemies. A father who chooses protection over revenge. A husband who believes in forever. David squeezed her hand and watched his children dancing in the backyard of the house he'd almost lost to someone else's lies. I can live with that. 25 years after Anya Volkov walked out of a federal courthouse in handcuffs, David Torres sat in his study and wrote the final chapter of his memoir. The book had become a bestseller. The foundation had helped thousands of families, and Torres Family Protection Services had offices in 12 states. But none of that mattered as much as the family photo on his desk. 15 people now, children, spouses, grandchildren, all gathered around him and Lisa for their 40th wedding anniversary. 40 years of real love. 40 years of keeping promises. 40 years of choosing each other every single day. David finished typing and read the last paragraph aloud. People often ask me if I forgive Anya for what she did to our family. The truth is, forgiveness is the wrong word. Forgiveness implies that someone did something to you that you have to get over. But Anya didn't do something to me. She did something for me. She showed me what fake love looks like, which helped me recognize real love when I found it. She freed me from a life of lies and gave me the chance to build a life of truth. For that, I'm grateful, not to her, but for the outcome. Because in the end, love wins. Real love always wins. David saved the document and closed his laptop. Through his study window, he could see Lisa in their garden, playing with their newest grandchild while Emma's twins helped her plant flowers. 4 generations of the Torres family, all of them choosing love over lies, truth over deception, commitment over convenience. David walked outside and joined his family in the garden. "Grandpa!" the twins yelled, running to hug his legs. "How are my favorite troublemakers?" "We're helping Grandma plant flowers for the angels," 4-year-old Sophia, named after her aunt, explained seriously. "What angels?" "The angels who kept our family safe from the bad people." David looked at Lisa, who was smiling at him over the garden bed. "That's a beautiful idea," he said. "Grandma says the angels have been watching over us for a long time." "I think Grandma's right." As the sun set over their garden, David thought about all the people who had tried to destroy his family over the years. Anya with her lies and her plans for abandonment. Dmitri with his threats and his demands. Aunt Milena with her criminal network. The man who'd planned revenge for exposing their crimes. All of them were gone now, defeated by something much more powerful than their greed or their anger or their desire for destruction. They were defeated by love. Real, honest, everyday love that showed up for breakfast every morning and tucked children into bed every night. Love that worked double shifts and attended soccer games and helped with homework and never, ever gave up. Love that chose to build instead of destroy, to protect instead of abandon, to keep promises instead of breaking them. David wrapped his arms around his wife and watched their grandchildren play in the garden they'd planted together. "Any regrets?" Lisa asked, echoing the question she'd asked him for 40 years. David looked at his family, all of them gathered in one place, all of them safe, all of them loved, and realized that for the first time in his life, he had no regrets at all. "None," he said. "Not a single one." As the stars came out over their backyard, David Torres understood that this was what victory looked like. Not revenge or justice or public recognition, but this, a garden full of laughter, a house full of love, and a family that would last forever. Anya Volkov had wanted to destroy his life and steal his children and take everything he'd worked for. Instead, she'd given him the greatest gift imaginable, the motivation to fight for something real, and real had won. Real always wins.